green marble crochet tutorial. For this tutorial, I'm just going to be showing you how to make this really super basic wide roll neck sweater design that I came up with. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I really love it. It's super cozy and super warm. It's exactly what I need right now. Yeah, so we're going to be doing that. There's not a lot to say about it. We can just get straight into it. It's not the usual type of sweater that I make. The increases for the seams are really different, so you'll have to pay a bit more attention to it. But aside from that, it's really, really easy and super modifiable to fit you specific size. So yeah, there's that. That's what we're doing. Something else. I haven't been around much lately because I've been working on sort of like a crochet planner journal type thing, which I'm really excited about. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that very soon when I get it up and get it out on Amazon. So that's what I've been doing. Been working really hard on it. Actually stayed up till 7 this morning finishing it, so yes, I've been a bit obsessed. But it's finally here and it's finally ready to get underway. So yeah, I look forward to getting it out and, you know, sharing it with everyone. And just that. Yeah, alright, well, as you can see, I'm using the same yarn that I've been using for pretty much everything. So this one has a ribbed hem and ribbed cuffs. Yes, obviously you'll see the full finished product at the end when I prance about in the courtyard to show it off. Yes. So we're doing alright. Well, I hope you enjoy this tutorial. If you haven't subscribed but you would like to subscribe to join me for some more tutorials, I would love to have you join me. A big thank you to my patrons. Thank you for your support. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching my videos. If you need to get in contact with me very quickly for anything, if you need help, look for me on Instagram. I'm the_green_marble, and you can find me there very quickly. I'll be able to help you out with whatever you need help with very quickly there. Alternatively, you can message me at the Green Marble Project. thegreenmarbleproject@gmail.com. So there's that. People have been doing that lately, and I can get back to you fairly quickly with that as well. So yes, just do that. Alright, yes. Let's just get straight into making this sweater. Alright, now to begin, we're going to have a quick look at the tiny details on the label of the yarn that we're going to use. Also, just quickly, so originally I was going to just be making this using all blue. But it turns out I don't think that I'm going to have enough for this particular design because I started making a tester with all these different colours, and yeah, these are all actually full skeins, but it turns out I probably won't have enough even with the 7 skeins of blue that I've got. I will go through it like as I'm going, and by the end of it I'll tally up all the skeins that I've used, and I'll put that in the description when I post the video. But yeah, so I'm going to make it all in different colours. And that's how we're doing it. Alright, so yes, like I said, I'm going to have a look at the tiny details on the label of the yarn. And they're all the same yarn, so this is what we're working with. And if you need more time to have a look at anything, just pause the video. So that's what we're working with. Also, I just want to mention quickly that if any point during the tutorial you feel like I'm going too fast, there's a feature on YouTube where you can slow down the speed of the video. So I always just suggest using that in case you need to go at your own pace. So yeah. Alright, and finally, here are the tiny relevant details, if my camera will focus. Sort of. Alright, yeah, it's saying here that I should use a 6 or a 7mm hook for this particular yarn, but I'm not going to. I'm going to be using my 5mm. Just because I want the stitches to be a little tighter than they would be if I used a 6. So yeah, that's what we're doing. I'm going to be starting with the blue. So I'm going to clear all this up and we'll get started. Alright, so this is a top-down design. So we're starting with the wide roll neck collar. And for that, what we're going to do first is we're going to find the end of the yarn that we're using. So I'm starting with the blue. We're going to find the end. Where are we? Here we are. like this. And I'm going to focus my camera. Lock. Good. Alright, so finding the end of the yarn, we want to start by making a slip knot. So to do that, what you do is you take the end of your yarn between your thumb and your index finger of your right hand, like this. Then with your left hand, you take the index finger and the middle finger and you wind the working end around like so. Grab hold, pull through, and there's a slip knot. Now what you're going to do is you're going to grab your hook, you're going to adjust your hook to the knot, pull tight with the working end. So that's a slip knot. And now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 100. So for a chain stitch, it is yarn over, pull through, so that's 1 chain, yarn over, pull through, that's 2 chains, yarn over, pull through, and that's 3 chains. So we're going to chain 100. I'll meet back up with you once we've chained all our 100, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alright, now here I am with my 100, chain of 100, so that's what that looks like. So what we're going to do now is very carefully, we're going to work our way back to the beginning of the chain. Be very careful not to get this twisted, because if you do, you can create a sort of an infinity loop type thing that's not really going to work as a collar once we do what we're about to do. So carefully, you've worked your way back to the beginning. So here's our first chain. What you're going to do is you're going to turn it over like this, and into that very first chain at the beginning just there, we're going to go into the top of that. So I'm going to stick our hook through there. We're going to grab the working end of the yarn. We're going to yarn over, pull a loop through that chain, and then pull that loop through the last chain on our hook, like this. So now we've got a very, very large chain circle. Losing my voice. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to chain up 2, so 1 and 2, and we're going to be putting double crochets into every chain all the way around. So we're going to be doing 100 double crochets, and we're going to be doing our first one into that chain that we slip stitched into. So for a double crochet into the chain, it is yarn over, go into that chain, so the same one we slip stitched into just there. You're going to go in, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's a double crochet. We'll do the next one together. So yarn over, going into the next chain along just there, going into that chain, going to the whole of the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So there's 2 double crochets. So we're going to be doing that all the way around. Once we've done our 100, we'll meet back up and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alright, now here I am at the end of the round with my 100 double crochets, one into every chain. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look for that chain of 2 that we did at the beginning. Focus. So looking for that chain of 2 that we did at the beginning just there, you can see just there it is. What we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the stitch at the top of that, so just like that, beneath both parts of the V of that stitch, yarn over, pull through a loop, pull that through the last stitch to close the round. So there's our first round. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to chain up 2, so 1, 2, and we're going to turn the work. Now we're going to be turning the work after every round, and the reason I do that is because it stops the seam from drifting to the side. And I also like the back and forth sort of pattern that it makes when you, anyway, as you're going. So what we're going to do now, we've chained up 2, we've turned. We're going to be putting double crochets all the way back in the other direction. So what we do is we don't put our first double crochet into the stitch directly beneath, so not into that one just there, not the one directly beneath the chain of 2. We're going to go into the next one along, so that one just there. That's going to be our first stitch. So you're going in there beneath both parts of the V, so just like that, in like so. So 100 stitches back in the other direction. And once you get to the end, you're going to look for the stitch at the top of that chain of 2 from the beginning. You're going to slip stitch into that to close the round, chain up 2, turn, and repeat this process. So I'm going to be doing this for a total of 15 rounds, including this first one that we've already done. So I'm on my second one right now. And once I've completed 15 rounds, this is a good place to sort of, go get comfortable somewhere, maybe watch a movie, something like that. Get comfortable and do your 15 rounds. So yeah, that's it. That's what we're going to do. All right, I will meet back up with you once we've done that, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Okay, see you soon. All right, now then, I've completed 15 rounds of double crochet, 15 rounds of 100. So what we're going to do now, at this point, what we can do, which is really, really good, I'm really glad I figured this out. What you can do is you can measure. First, we're going to measure how many stitches you're going to need to increase to for the front and back and the shoulder sections, which I'm going to show you how to do. But to begin with, we'll measure those. So what you do, what I've figured out, is you sort of take hold of the join at the back, so where you've slip stitched into that chain of 2 from the beginning, the last time. So just here, so say you take hold of this stitch, which is on this side of the chain of 2, and then what you do is you sort of, hang on, we'll turn it this way. We'll turn it this way and we'll choose this stitch on that side of the join. So what you do is, obviously this is not my upper arm, but you hold it against your upper arm, or you wrap it around your upper arm like so, and then you grab hold of the other side and you sort of line it up with that last stitch before the join. You line it up like this, then you hold onto that stitch that you've lined up with the last join, take it off, and then count backwards to that last stitch. And that's going to show you, obviously you're doing this on your upper arm, so that's going to show you how many stitches that you'll need to increase to for the shoulder, and I'll show you how we're going to do that in a moment. So that's what you do. Also, the same, you hold a bunch of stitches, so you say you grab onto that stitch before the join just there. Hold it up against yourself, so against your front, and I would suggest just holding it up against the bust area, just so that you're getting the widest part of your torso. And you hold it up and you sort of wrap it around to your sides, and you count backwards to that stitch again. I hope I'm explaining this well. And that's how many stitches you're going to need to increase to for the front and the back sections. So I'll show you how we're going to do that. So for me, the shoulder sections, the arms that I'm going to need to increase to is 32 from a stitch count of 10. And for the front and the back, I'm going to need to increase to a stitch count of 44. So that's what we're doing. Obviously, I will, because of the amount of stitches we're going to be starting with, I will be stopping the stitches for the front and the back before I stop the increases for the stopping the increases for the front and back before I stop the increases for the shoulder sections. But that's fine. That's not a problem. It's still all going to work out. So what we're going to do is we're going to find where we left off. We're going to readjust our hook. So we're not cutting any yarn, we're not tying off, we're just going straight from where we were for these increases. So where are we? There we are. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain up 2 and we're going to turn. So at this point, what I'm starting it with is a stitch count of 40 at the front and 40 at the back, and 10 for each shoulder. And what we're going to be doing is, because this where we're starting is the middle of the back. What are we doing? So this is the middle of the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to double crochet 20 across. So just starting as we normally would, double crochet. So 1 and 2. So I'll meet you at the 20th. All right, so here I am about to put in my 20th stitch. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 stitches into the 20th stitch. So 1 and 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So for the back, yeah, no, that's fine. I'm not going to complicate it too much. I'll just show you how I'm doing it, and then you can sort of see what I mean. So what we're going to do next is we're going to create this shoulder section, and for the first and last stitch of the shoulder section, we're going to be putting 2 stitches into the same stitch. So like I said, we're starting with a stitch count of 10. So into the first stitch, the next one along, we're going to once again put in 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So 1, 2 into the same stitch. Then you're going to count 9 across, so 10 all up. If you can count this one that you put 2 into, so we'll count that and we'll count 10. So 1, 2, 3, 44, so I'll see you at the 10th stitch. Alright, so here I am about to put in the 10th stitch. So once again, we're going to put 2 double crochets into the same stitch. 1 and 2. 2. So now what we've got is a stitch count of 40 across the front. So again, for the first and last stitch of that 40, it's going to be 2 into those stitches. So the first one, 2 into the first stitch, then you're going to count up to 40. So including that one where you put 2 into that first stitch, so we'll count that as 1. Then we've got 2 and 3. So I'll meet you at the 40th stitch. Alright, now here I am on my 40th stitch, just about to put that in. So we're going to do 2 stitches into that stitch. So now I've increased to 42 stitches for the front. So I'm only going to need to do one more round of increase till I reach the stitch count for the front and the back that I need to be at, so 44. Alright, so we're going to do the next shoulder now. So it's just the same as the previous thing we did for the other shoulder. So you just put 2 stitches into the first stitch, 1 and 2. And now counting that as 1, we're going to count to 10. And here I am at the 10th, about to put 2 stitches into that 10th stitch to complete the increases for this shoulder. So there we are. Alright, so that's that shoulder complete. Now for each shoulder I've increased to a stitch count of 12. So as you can see, we'll be increasing by 2 stitches per section. So what we've got now, it will have 20 stitches to finish up the round. And for the first of those 20, we're going to be putting 2 stitches into the same stitch. So 1 and 2. So as you can see, this first stitch that we've just done is going to represent the first of the 40 for the back. So at the beginning of this round, when you did 20 and 2 stitches into that 20th, that would represent the 40th stitch of the back. So you've done 2 stitches into that 1 stitch, so now you've got 20 stitches to finish up this, including that stitch that you put 2 into. Once you get to the end of the round, you're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 2 from the beginning to close up, chain up 2 and turn. So I'm going to meet back up with you and I'm going to show you what I do to determine where I need to put my increases for the following rounds, so that you know what to do with that. Alright, so we'll see you in a moment. Alright, so here I am at the end of the round, just slip stitching into that chain of 2 from the beginning. And now I'm going to chain up 2, turn the work. And there we go. Alright, so because on either side of this join, obviously you're only working with half of the stitch count of the front and the back. So now for this section you have increased to a stitch count of 21. So you'll be counting 21 stitches of double crochet. Well, you'll be counting 21 stitches of double crochet till you get to the 21st stitch, where you will put 2 stitches into the same stitch. So you'll be putting 2 stitches into the 21st. I'm going to meet you at that point because there's some things you need to do. Just in case you sort of stop counting, there's a good way to determine where you need to be putting your increases. So I'll meet you at that point. Alright, here I am about to put in my 2 stitches into that 21st stitch just there. So we're going to do 1 and 2. Now, a really good way to determine which stitch you're going to be putting if you just get confused, you know. So as you can see from the previous round here, these are our 2 increase. I'm going to take out my hook. So just here you can see these are the 2 stitches from the previous round into the same stitch that makes up the 21 stitches of the previous round. So the increase for the back. So this one, obviously, the second of those on this side, that's the stitch that you're working with. And a really good way to determine which part of up the top of this sort of stitch that you need to be going into, that you need to be working in. Okay, look, let's just do it up here. So as you can see, when you're crocheting, the part that you're crocheting, the braid of the stitch is facing towards you on the top just there. But the part that we're working into is when you turn it, and it's the unbraided side of the stitch. And the part of the stitch that you need to be working into, in that case, falls to the top left of the body of the stitch that you're working with. So like I said, this being the body of the stitch that you're working with, so the last stitch of those 21, that means you're working into that part that falls to the top left of that stitch. Because if you have the braided side facing towards you, say for instance you're working with this stitch just here, so this one just here, if the braided side is facing towards you, so if you're just doing a continuous crochet round, the part that you'll be working into is going to fall to the top right hand side of it. So I don't know if you can see that. Let's focus a bit better. There we go. So yeah, say you're working with that stitch just there, and the braided side is facing towards you, you're working into the top right hand side sort of stitch part just there. But we're not, so let's not confuse things. So let's say we've got this stitch that we're working with, this one just here, then to the top left is where you're working into. So that's like with this 21st one just here. So that's the last stitch of these 21, and here's that top left hand part that we've worked into for those 2 increases. So now we're moving on to, that was kind of long-winded, sorry, but I just wanted to be thorough. I want to make sure you understand so that, you know, you don't get confused. And yeah, you know, if you need further explanation, write to me. I'll try and put it in writing. So yes, so what we're doing now is we're working with these 12 that we've increased to for the shoulder. So here's these 12 that we've increased to. So into that first one of the 12, and like just the same as what we did here, here's the stitch that we're working with. The increases are going into the top left hand side of that, the body of that stitch. So there's 1, 2, and we're increasing to 14 for this increase. So if you want, you can count 14 stitches. So you can count 1, 2 for the stitches, 2 stitches into that first stitch. Oh no, I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll meet you at the 14th. So here I am about to put in my last increases. So into that 12th stitch, so it'll be 13 and 14. So there we go. So that's into the body, or into the stitch part of that one. So it's the beginning and last one of the previous increase round. So that one and that one. No, wait, where are we? Nope. That one and that one. See, because the increases are right next to each other. So try not to get confused with that. But, you know, just count. If you want, count as you go to make sure you've got the right amount of stitches that you're doing for that particular round. And if you want, you can write it down, you know, write down what you need to, just sort of set it to the side. So it's there for you to work with. Now, for the front and the back, because I've increased by 2 stitches for the previous round, that means I've only got 1 more round of increase. I think I already said this, not sure. Till I reach my 44 stitches for the front and the back. So I'm going to do 1 and 2 into that first stitch, which means I won't need to be increasing anymore for the front and the back. I will just continue increases for the sides, for the shoulders. And I'll meet back up with you and I'll show you what I mean by that once I finish this round. Okay, see you soon. Alright, so I've chained up 2 and I'm on to the next round. So now that I've finished increasing for the front and the back, I'm only going to have a stitch count of 22, because remember it's 44 for the front and the back. So I'm only going to have a stitch count of 22 for the beginning and the end of each round, and 44 for the front. But I'm going to still be increasing for the shoulder sections. So I'm going to count to 22 stitches. So I'm going to count along. What have I got? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll count to 22. Alright, so I've put in my 22 stitches across. Now we're just going to be working with the shoulder section. And like I said, I'm increasing to a stitch count of 32. So here's the first of those stitches for the shoulder. So we've got 1 and 2 into the same stitch. So for this, I think I'm increasing to a stitch count of 16, isn't it? I don't know how, what have we got? We've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yep, I'm increasing now to a stitch count of 16. And that's it. I'll do that increase. But like I said, there will only be 44 stitches for the front. So no more increases for that. We're just going to continue on with the shoulders. And yes. All right. So like I said, stitch count of 32 that I'm increasing to for the shoulders. I'll meet back up with you once that's all done. We'll have a look. We'll see how it looks. At some point you might want to try it on. Bring the front and the back sort of increase sections together beneath your arms and see how it fits. This is not my usual increases that I do. Usually I do the double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into the same stitch, and then use that chain space as the increases thereon after for the preceding increase rounds. But we're not doing that. So yeah, all right. I'm going to meet back up with you once I've increased the shoulders to 32. This is another point where you might want to get comfortable because, you know, there's a bit to do. Anyway, so I'll see you at that point. All right, so now that I've increased to a stitch count of 32 for the shoulders, and we've got our 44 for the front and 44 for the back, what we're going to do now is work on joining the back to the front, and we're going to bypass the arms for the moment and just keep working on the body till we've grown it to a length that we're happy with. So what we're going to do, straight from where we left off on our last round, we're just going to chain up 2, so 1, 2. We're going to turn the round, or turn the work, and we're going to start our round as we normally would, just putting a double crochet, but we're going to just do our double crochets into the first 22. So the first lot of stitches for the back, we're just going to put those in. So I'm going to do that all the way up. So we'll stop at that 22nd one, and we'll talk about how we're going to join the back to the front. All right, and here I am just putting in my 22nd stitch. So where are we? There we go. 22. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to sort of feel my way along till I get past the next increase section of the shoulder just here. And we're going to bypass the shoulder for the moment. And what we're going to do is we are folding this shoulder section towards us. So the folds are going to be away from us like this, sort of folding in that direction, making sure the yarn is on the outside just there. So hold that to the back. And you're sort of turning, well, no, you're not really turning at all. Now, I'm doing something a little bit different because what I normally do is I just put a double crochet. This is what I would normally do. I'll show you. So normally I would yarn over, look for the next stitch along after those increases, or the next stitch, because normally I'd just be joining the chain of 2 space in the increases, but we're not doing that. So what I would normally do anyway is just look for the next stitch along, so that one there, and I would just double crochet straight into it like that. But what I found is I really don't like the gap that creates with the double crochet, because it's such a, like, it's a longer stitch than, you know, your half double crochet or your single crochet. So you've kind of got that gap, which, yeah, I've been trying to figure out how to fix that for ages. And then, you know, I just sort of happened upon it the other night. So what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over, go into this 22nd stitch that you've already gone into. So stick your hook through that. Now move to that next stitch along after the sleeve. So you've folded your sleeve like this, you're moving to that next stitch along just there, and remember we're working into the part that falls to the top left hand side of the body of the stitch, so you can easily find which one that is. There's those 2 for that last increase on the shoulder. Then you've got your next stitch along just there. We're going to be sticking our hook into the top left part of that stitch. Now what you're going to do is you're going to yarn over, pull that loop through that stitch, then also pull that loop through that last of the 22nd on the other side, just there, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we've joined the front to the back, and we've done it in such a way that there's not going to be that annoying gap that there normally is in, you know, the other sweaters that I've made. Anyway, so that's good. That's really good. So now all we're going to do is just move on to the rest of the stitches at the front. So you've done the first of the 44 at the front. So there's... Well, I think also I find that when I do it the other way, I lose a stitch or 2. Yeah, I lose a stitch on either side when I join the front to the back. So this way we don't lose any of the... shouldn't be losing, in theory, any of the stitches at the front and back. So we'll still end up with a stitch count of 88 all the way around the torso. So yeah, you're just moving to the next stitch along. Count. I'll count them when I get to the end. I'll meet back up with you and I'll let you know if I still have my stitch count of 88 for the body. So once you get to the next lot of increases, so you're going to do your 44 along the front, you're just going to do the same thing, and make sure you're folding the sleeve in the same direction as you folded the other sleeve. Okay, so hang on a second. So yeah, you'll just be folding it with the folding part away from you and the sleeve towards you. So just hypothetically say this is it, and then you're folding it like this. All right, so I think you know what to do. If you get stuck with that, just go back to where we did the fold, the join for that previous front and back section, back and front section. I'm going to meet you at the end of the round. We'll see how it looks, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. All right, see you soon. Okay, yes, here I am at the end of the round, and I did count, and I do have a stitch count of 88, so that's excellent. Worked out really well. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to chain up 2, turn the work, and we're going to just be doing rounds of that 88 or whatever the stitch count is for your torso area. You're going to be doing rounds of that, and you're going to be growing the length of your torso or the length of the body to whatever you want, however long you want it to be. You might even want to turn this into a dress. Don't know. I've been thinking of doing something like that. So we're going to be doing that, and once we've done that, because I think I'm going to be adding a ribbed hem and ribbed cuffs. So once we've done that, do factor that in, because I think I'll be adding about 7 or 8 single crochets for the ribbed hem and the ribbed cuffs. I'll probably let you know at the beginning in the intro what I've done. So yeah, hopefully I'll remember to do that. If I haven't, you know, actually no, I should probably write that down. Okay, that's written down. So yeah, we don't have to meet back up until we've grown the length of our body. I'll see you at that point, and we'll talk about how we're going to move on to the sleeves. All right, see you soon. All right, now that I've crocheted the body to a length that I'm happy with, what we're going to do now is we're going to put that aside for the moment, and we'll go back to it and add the hem later. But now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the arms, work on the sleeves. So what you're going to do is go back to one of the armholes, and for this we're going to be working into the unbraided side just to keep the continuity of the back and forth thing going. So just like we've been doing. So there's the braided side, and then if you turn that over, there's the unbraided side of the stitch. And we're just following all the same principles, like the stitch falling to the top left hand of the body of the stitch that you're working with. So what we're going to do is, at the join, just here where you join the body, make sure you're not working into the stitches that you already used to join the body with. So that would be that one just, let me see if I can get it. So that would be that one just there, and that one just there. So you're working with this one and this one. So what you're going to do is you're going to stick your hook through the first one on this side. And we're going to be doing the same thing. So we're going to bridge that gap that would be there if the double crochet wasn't joined. Anyway, we'll do it together. So you're going to find the yarn that you're using. You're going to make a fresh slip knot, just like this. You're going to adjust that knot to the hook. You're going to pull tight. Now, if that slip knot, if you're doing this, just pull that slip knot part or the loose end of the thread just there through like this. So just pull it through so that you can sort of work that in as you go along, and it's sort of out of sight. And now what you're going to do is you're going to chain up 2, 1 and 2. Next to that chain of 2, actually we're just doing the same thing as we did before. So you're going to yarn over, go into that stitch, double crochet. And then to bridge that gap, what we're doing is we're going to yarn over, go into that same stitch, then moving to the next stitch along on the other side of that gap. So the next one, which is going to be that one just there. You're going to go in, yarn over, pull through a loop, pull it through that stitch on the other side, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're just putting double crochets in all the way around. So I've already gone into that stitch just there. So for me, that's going to be 32 stitches. 32 stitches. So I'm just going to do that. Then when I get to the end of the round, I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the chain of 2, chain up 2, turn the work. And we're just basically growing the sleeve the same as we've done for growing the body, growing the torso. So that's what we're doing. Obviously allow for that space, I don't know, maybe to be an inch or so, a couple of inches, just a second. Okay, yes, so I would say leave about 3 inches for the hem and the cuffs that we're going to be doing in ribbed stitch. So about 3 inches. And then I'll show you how to do that after we've completed the length of this sleeves. So once you've done this sleeve, you're going to do exactly the same for the other one. And that's how we're doing it. All right, so I'll see you once we've put in our sleeves, and we'll work on doing the cuffs and the hem. All right, see you soon. All right, now I've actually completed both my sleeves, and I've done the cuffs as well for those. So that's what they're going to look like. Where about the other one? There's the other one. They actually look really good. I'm really happy with this. It's turning out really well. So what I'm going to do is I've reattached some yarn to the torso because I've lengthened it a little bit. It needed to be a bit longer. So I've done that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the ribbed hem. I'm going to show you how to do that. And doing that, it's exactly the same process for the hem and the cuffs. So it's the same thing. So what we do is, straight from the last stitch that we've done, so we've done our last round of the torso, or you've done your last round of the sleeve. So what you're going to do at this point is you're going to, well, I'm chaining 13, so I said 3 inches, so for me that's about 12 single crochets. So we're going to chain 13 straight from our last stitch our last slip stitch. So 1, 2, 3, I'm going to chain 13. All right, now here I am with those 13 chains. So what I'm going to do at this point is skipping the first chain from the hook. So there's that chain just there. Where are we? There's that first chain from the hook just there. We're going to single crochet into the next chain along. So 1 single crochet into the next chain along. And then we're going to be putting a single crochet into every chain all the way back down to the beginning. So there's going to be 12 single crochets. All right, and here I am with those 12 single crochets into that chain. Now, what we're doing is, because we're not working into the unbraided side of the stitch of the body, so this chain doesn't really represent anything. It's just the foundation chain of the ribbed hem. But this row of single crochets, the stitch right beneath the chain, so that one just there, we are actually working with that, represents this row of single crochets that we've just done. So what we're going to do right from the last single crochet that you did, you're going to slip stitch into that stitch that's right beneath the chain there to attach that row. Now don't slip stitch too tight. What you want to do is you really want to keep the tension of your hem very, very consistent throughout, because if you don't, it can get all sort of warped and out of shape in different places and it looks really bad. So just make sure you're being very, very consistent. So for me, I want it to be quite loose. I don't want it to be a tight hem. I mean, you can make it tight. For me personally, it doesn't really work out very well. So I'm just sort of slip stitching gently to that stitch right there beneath that chain. Now what I'm going to do to represent the chain up of 1 is I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch along, just gently slip stitch into the next stitch along. Then I am turning this way. So at this point you really want to pay attention to what you're doing, so that you're going into the right stitch. So we've chained up, well, we've slip stitched to represent the chain up. Now what we're doing to create the ribbed effect is into that first stitch just there, you're going to go in beneath both parts of the V, so through the whole stitch, you're going to single crochet just like that. But into the next 10 stitches, so from stitches 2 to 11, you're going into the top back part of that stitch. So I'm going to try and focus a bit better. That's better. Alright, so what I mean by that is you see the V on top of the stitch. You're going to insert your hook into the top back part of that V and single crochet. So that's stitch number 2. Then you're doing the same thing for stitch number 3 and all the way up to stitch number 11. And then for stitch number 12, you're going to be going beneath both parts of the V again. So I'll meet back up with you at that point. We'll do it together and we'll talk about where we're going to go from there. Alright, now here I am at that 12th stitch. So it says at 12th stitch, I'm just going to go in beneath both parts of that V, single crochet. So that just helps keep the edges neater, rather than being too crinkled. Anyway, so what we do at this point is we chain and we turn the work back this way, like this. What we're going to do is into that first single crochet on that first stitch, we're going to go beneath both parts again. So you're going to do this, you're just repeating the last row. So single crochet, and we're going into the top back part of stitches 2 through to 11. Alright, and here I am on my 12th stitch. So for that 12th one, which is just there, you can see there's that 12th stitch. I'm going to go beneath both parts of the V, single crochet. Now, on the body, the next stitch along, so there's the next stitch along. We've already gone into that one just there that you can see. The next stitch along we're going to slip stitch into, and that is going to represent the row of single crochets that we just did. Just like that, attaching the row of single crochets that we just did to the body with that next stitch. And then to represent the chain up of 1, you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch along, just gently like that. And then once again you're turning and repeating what you did before when you did this. So you're going into the first stitch just there, so that's that first one. Go beneath both parts of the V, single crochet into the top back part of the stitch for stitches 2 through to 11, single crochet beneath both parts of the V for stitch number 12, chain up 1 turn, and you're doing this for the body. So for me, how many was I had? How many? Yes, because I did an extra increase for the body, so there were 46. What does that make? That makes 92, doesn't it? I think I should have 92 stitches. So however many stitches I've got around for the body is how many rows of this ribbing that I'll be doing. So like I said, 46 and 46, that should be 92. My maths is hopeless, but it's okay. And that means I'll have 92 rows of this ribbing. So I'll meet you when I've done the 92nd. We'll talk about how we're going to join that. But like I said, it's exactly the same for the cuff. So you'll just be following this process for however many stitches you've got for the cuff. Anyway, I'll meet you when I've done my last row of ribbing and we'll join it together. Alright, see you soon. Alright, now then, I've finished my 92 rows of ribbing for the hem. So what we're going to do now is we're going to join the last stitches of the last, the stitches of the last row to the foundation chain right at the beginning. So to do that, what we've got to do is got to sort of turn to make sure your last stitch is on the right here, like this. And what you're going to do is, we're going to make sure our working end of the yarn is pushed to the back like this. You're picking up the foundation chain at the other end, and you're going to go into the corresponding stitch at the beginning just there. I'm going to get a bit closer. So we're going to go into that first chain right at the beginning just there. On the other side, you're going to yarn over, pull through, single crochet. So you've single crocheted that last stitch together with that stitch on the other side, the corresponding foundation chain on the other side. So now what you're going to do is, where are we? There we are. Making sure not to get twisted. So now you're going to go into the next stitch along. So remember, I've got 12 to work with along here, so I've just done number 1. I'm going to stick, I've taken the loop off my hook. I'm going to stick my hook through the next stitch along on the right hand side. I'm going to reattach that loop, pull it through that stitch, pull tight, then turning to the next foundation chain along on the other side. I'm going to go in, where is it? There we are. Just into there, so that's number 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, single crochet. And now dropping that loop again, I'm going to go into the next stitch along, so stitch number 3 on the right hand side, pick up the loop again, pull it through that stitch, pull tight, then moving back to the left hand side, next foundation chain along, so the third one, going to go into that, yarn over, pull up a loop, single crochet. So as you can see, I'm single crocheting the foundation chains together with the last stitches of the final row of ribbing. So that was number 3. Going into number 4, pick up that loop, pull it through, pull tight, going into the next foundation chain along, yarn over, single crochet. So that's 4. So I'm going to do all 12 of those. We'll meet back up and we'll tie off together, and I'll see you at that point. Okay, and here I am, and I've slip stitched, well no, I've single crocheted all those stitches together. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chain 1 I'm going to find my scissors. I'm going to cut the yarn, cut a nice length that I can weave in with a darning needle. So just there, cutting the yarn, and then you're just going to pull that chain through, pull tight. So that's the process you're going to do for the cuffs as well. It's really, really easy, just following the stitch count that you've got. And that's it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my darning needle, and I'm going to weave in this loose end. I've already weaved in all the other ends. I'm very excited. So now all we have to do is go away, try on our sweaters and see how they look. And I can tell you this one looks really nice. I've already tried it on. I'm really happy with it. I'm actually very interested to try out this design, but make the very wide neckline into a hood. So obviously crochet a much greater length of neckline so that it sort of comes up around the back of the head and turns into a hood. Because I could sort of see that happening when I tried it on. So yes. I'm gonna give it a go. Yeah, alright, well, I hope you're happy with your sweater. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna finish weaving this in now, and yeah, I'll see you shortly for when I'm prancing about in the courtyard with my sweater on. Alright, see you soon. Alrighty, here is the finished sweater. Yes. Alright, so yes, as you can see, pretty easy to make. Not a lot goes into it. I actually think I prefer doing these seams as opposed to the other ones that I normally do for sweaters. Just because there's no holes in the side, and I kind of like that. So yeah, so this is my new favorite sweater for sure. I've already worn it out in public, planning on wearing it out a lot more. I don't really think there's anything else I need to say. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you've made yourself a lovely sweater. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.